Let's get more on this. I want to bring in international affairs analyst Curtis Adigba into the conversation. Curtis, great to see you today.
Thanks for having me, and good evening.
Wow. So here we are, nearly 100 days since Donald Trump returned to the White House. Are you noticing any similarities in the way he's carrying on compared to the last time, except, of course, for all these tariffs being imposed on many countries?
Yeah, Trump is Trump. Trump will always be Trump. There's no significant difference between President Trump in his first term and President Trump in his second term. What we have just seen that is slightly different is the way and manner he has gone about doing what he believes is in the best interest of the United States of America. Otherwise, it's basically the same Trump. He lost the tariffs. He's imposed tariffs on all over the country, on all countries in the world. Okay, unlike in his first term, he was a bit selective about certain countries, but this time he's invoked the international emergency powers of 1977 to impose tariffs on almost all countries of the world. Again, he's picked his loyalists, like he's always talked about, and he's just gone about basically implementing his MAGA policies. So it's central.
Right, and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the first 100 days have been historic. She's not far from the truth. It has been a long time since we ever saw these many changes in the White House and from the White House. How do you think that plays into America's history when it's studied later?
Well, historic does not necessarily mean it simply means something that is unusual. It can also be something that is of great importance. But I think for this purpose, I like to look at it as something that is unusual in terms of the appointments that it has made. One, if you look at the entire Trump cabinet, it does not reflect the diversity of America as a nation. Now compare his cabinet to that of his predecessor, Joe Biden. As of today, you cannot see any person of color in his cabinet, especially in the key areas of government. The Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary of State Mark Rubio, Secretary of Interior Doug Bogrov, FBI Director Kash Patel. Yes, black, but it's Indian. And then you look at the intelligence services, of course, Tulsi Gabbard, National Intelligence, and all that. So basically, that's one area that is historic. That for the first time in recent history of America, we are seeing a cabinet that does not reflect the diversity of America. Well, the second thing is that it's also introduced DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, manned by an outsider businessman who is taking a wrecking hammer into different departments, ministries, and agencies of government, destroying years of accomplishment, years of experience, all in search of more money for the government to spend. And then, for the first time, we are also seeing an American president who does not believe in DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And look, people don't understand that DEI does not just mean that the people of color that are hired to work in certain departments or agencies and ministries are inferior in terms of qualification, knowledge, and education. It simply means that America is hiring, even from among qualified people, different people of different colors to show the diversity of America. He said he doesn't believe in that. And also, he's taking a hard line on immigration to the extent that farmers in manufacturing outfits in America today cannot find even workers. So when you look at these things put together, and then the fact that Trump is trying to govern by executive orders, notwithstanding that he has the two houses of the Congress, he's got majority in them. Trump has signed a total of 130 executive orders in 100 days. Trump also by his actions has generated 220 lawsuits against his government. This is historic. It's also historic that the president is going all out to attack judges who disagree with his policies. Judges, District Judge James Bosca was attacked by the president and his vice. In fact, he called for his impeachment by the Congress. And only last week, Judge Duncan in Wisconsin was arrested by the FBI for preventing them from arresting someone that they said they were looking for right in her court. So when you put all this together, of course, and then the retribution, going after those perceived to be political enemies, it took away the security clearance of Joe Biden. Yes, you can argue that former President Biden also did the same thing to him, but he went after someone like Chris Kretz and Mike Stelo. These were people who said, look, the fact that he didn't win the last election and that it was not rigged. So when you put all this together, you will say, well, the first 100 days of Trump is indeed historic.
Do you talk about some of the cabinet members as you were talking about, how well or the president's choices in the last 100 days are being perceived, all the executive orders that he's signing, someone must implement them. So how do you rate the performance of his cabinet now in the last 100 days?
So I think all the members of his cabinet are playing to one audience, and that is Trump. Look, basically, the Attorney General, who is supposed to be the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, has made it clear that she's there to carry out the orders of President Trump and nothing else. Kash Patel of FBI used the same set of language used by Trump to describe the FBI as deep state. It's just going to dismantle everything from there. They have gone after lawyers that have prosecuted Trump when he was candidate Trump. So, and then if you look at, other than the guy in charge of ICE, which is Immigration Custom Enforcement, who is basically deporting even American citizens to El Salvador. You heard, of course, the case of Armando, the guy that was deported to El Salvador. And then recently, the case of 3 children who are American citizens, and they also have been deported to, I think, Honduras and all that. And when you look at, I think the most prominent of all his cabinet members, you could say 2 of them, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, and then the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. But if you want to look at critically their performance, given the fact that Trump promised to lower inflation and to reduce the cost of living for Americans, that has not happened, okay? Bessent has been pushing back on some of the policies of Trump, some of the things that he just announced off the cuff, trying to stabilize the market, but the market largely has been performing badly. That's one. So of his performance on the international scene, I'm talking about the activities of the Secretary of State. Don't forget that Trump promised to end the Russian-Ukraine war within a few days or weeks. There's been no significant progress in that area. Of course, Russia has been playing the United States to the point that Senator Grassley from Iowa had to speak to Trump and said, this guy is playing games with you. We have also seen movement on the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, but that also has not been resolved. So to that extent, yes, there's been a lot of movement, but no concrete achievements in so many areas.
Right. So according to some recent poll, Curtis, done on the Trump presidency, Mr. Trump is the only post-war president to have less than half the public support at 100 days in both terms for a president who received perhaps one of the highest numbers at the polls. Why do you think that is?
So on the basis of what I just explained to you, don't forget that in the course of the campaign, this president promised to help Americans. Yeah. He said he was going to bring back the golden age of America. He was going to make America great again. But what he has done so far, by introducing tariffs, the cost of living has gone up for Americans. So when you're looking at the economy, his performance in the economy is very low. Immigration again is called low, okay? And then when you look at how he's dismantled some of the critical infrastructure, like the Department of Education, diversity, inclusion, equity and inclusion. The fact that he's brought a billionaire from outside who has come into government destroying support system for the poor in America meant that so many Americans who voted for him have now turned against him. And that is why you are seeing him pulling at 41%, which is the lowest in the last 7 decades. You are also seeing that he's become the most unpopular president ever in the history of America at 100 days rating. And that is because Americans are finding that issues of kitchen and table, that he promised that he was coming to solve, as he has left them unattended because he's gone to fight for tariffs that he didn't need to fight for. Now, and he believes that when he imposes tariffs on other countries, that the United States is making money because these countries are paying taxes to the US. And that is where he's mistaken. Tariffs are not exactly taxes paid by foreign countries. Tariffs are taxes that are paid by Americans who are consuming foreign goods coming into their country. And that is the reason why so many Americans today are beginning to bemoan their fate and say, look, we probably made a huge mistake by electing this guy. And that is why it's unpopular.
Right, and it's 100 days too early, Curtis, do you think, to assess the success of any presidency? But, our focus today is Donald Trump, going by everything we've been talking about.
Well, I don't think that 100 days are enough, but of course indicates clearly the direction of any government. He might hit a reset, but I don't think that knowing who Trump is, that will be easy. And that, because you see, first of all, he has to understand that he's on the right path. He has to understand that he's not doing what he promised the American people that he would do. Now, he has to understand that he needs to focus more on delivering for the American people than just playing politics of satisfaction. Okay? Now, if he can pull back the curtain and say, okay, look, the guys who elected me are not happy with me, and then I need to hit the reset button. You could argue that, yes, 100 days out of 4 years is probably not enough. But knowing who Trump is, a man who decides on the course and never wants to look back, it might be difficult for him to hit the reset button. This is what I think will happen. Next year, we have an election, the midterm election, okay? The only message that Mr. Trump will understand is if he loses the Congress, either the House or the Senate, which of course is going to cut deeply into his agenda, then he probably will sit up and want to hit the reset button. But until then, it's still going to be Trump. But this is what I found very troubling, that in spite of the fact that he controls both chambers of the US Congress, he's not had serious wins from the Congress. He's been busy signing executive orders on basically everything. So that tells you that he's finding things difficult, even with the Congress that his party dominates.
Right, Mr. Adigba, thanks again.
And thanks for having me.